TEQnation. My name is Ramon. This is Artem, and today we are going to present our 25 tips to get shit done, to be more productive in work, in life, increase your skills as a developer, and all the stuff you can learn from it as well. Where's my clicker? I forgot it. Here it is. So first of all, small disclaimer and explanation. All the tips and tricks that we will present to you today is just from our own experience. So this is what works for me and for Artem. Maybe something else works for you. Try to play with that and try to see what's best for you. Of course, some open doors will be kicked in. So a lot of things are so obvious that you think, well, why is this in it? But think about it. Do you actually live up to those rules? Do you actually do it? Some things are so obvious, but you don't do it. And we really go fast because when we wrote the abstract, we came to more than 100 tips, so we could have done a one-day conference ourselves. So we narrowed it down. But we want to give you as much tips as we can, so we go fast. Afterwards, I'll publish all slides on SlideShare. I'll announce it on my Twitter channel. So my name is Ramon. I'm the founder and director of TEQnation. We are a small Java consultancy company for English-speaking developers. I'm also a board member of the Amsterdam Java user group, where we host monthly meetups for Java users in Amsterdam. And I'm obsessed with productivity. I always want to get shit done faster and more efficient.
And, my name is Artem. I'm a senior software development at TEQnation, Java developer. I'm a DIY electronics enthusiast, and I like to be productive and try to avoid the tools that get in my way. So that's short about me.
Okay, so today we're going to share a lot of tips from us. Also, if you have any productivity tips, please tweet it with hashtag TN, that's TEQnation, get shit done. And the best tip at the end, we'll discuss all the tips. We'll open a live Twitter feed, and this is my Bible. It's a Dutch book from Rick Pastoor from Blendel. It's about how to get some grip on your life. The best tips, get my book. It's really worn out, so you can use it. There are some notes inside. I'll give it away. So what are we going to do today? So first of all, how did we give this talk? How did we get here? What was our personal experience? Then we'll talk about the current situation and the problems, a number of figures, and then what you all came for, 25 productivity tips and tricks. Like I said, afterwards we do some input from you, so please tweet it. And if there are questions, I hope we have time for that, or else we'll be walking around there all day, so I'm sure we'll need. So first of all, the funny thing is when you think about it, you go to school for a long period in your life and you learn a lot of stuff about your profession, but nobody teaches you how to work. If you finally got your first job, you're just there, you get a laptop or whatever computer, an email address, and they say, well, good luck. But nobody teaches you how to work. And actually that's really strange because you're learning all the time to get towards that moment. And we are going to teach you in 45 minutes what we think is the best way to do it. So how did I get started as a junior and Artem as well? Well, I thought I can focus, I can work hard, and I can remember everything. Everything was in here in my brain. And it worked really well if your life is just simple. You have a couple of tasks that you can remember and you can actually do it. But when you grow more older, you get more responsibilities and life will get you. Also, I thought getting my email inbox to 0, I had a good day. Yes, I cleared my inbox. Is that a productive day? I doubt it. I'm a multitasker, I can do 30 things at the same time. Well, apparently not. It's harder to focus if you do multiple tasks a day. And you don't focus, if you do this, you focus not on the important things, but on the urgent things. And we are trying to avoid that in this presentation. I live by the minute, and I stay awake at night from all the tasks that I needed to do because I think, well, I need to do it. And it's always when you're in the shower, you can't write it down, or when you're in bed, you can't write it down. But how did I wanted to overcome these problems because I stayed awake at night when the stress was getting to me and I thought, well, I need to do this, I need to do this, and I couldn't succeed in it. So I read a lot of books, read a lot of literature, and started living by these rules, actually. So, like I said, some of the things will be pretty obvious, but do you actually live by it? And that's what we're going to tell you today.
Why is it important to be productive? Because we are experiencing so much information overload these days. According to the Dutch Bureau of Statistics, about a third of the working population are actually experiencing information overload. And it actually happens uniformly among all genders. So everybody is pretty much affected in some way or another. And the highest information overload reported is actually among people in IT, and especially in IT managers. The IT managers are almost 2/3 of them are suffering from information overload. There's also high cases of burnouts. At the bar chart on the slide, you can see that almost every year for the past 4 years, a percentage of people affected by burnouts was increasing by 1%. And I think this number will be increasing more and more because, again, of the information overload. And burnout, if not everybody knows what it is, it's a state of emotional and physical exhaustion caused by prolonged stress. We have screens everywhere. We have our mobile phones with us all the time. We have our laptops. We have TV at home. We have our iPads by our bed. We have too many screens to work with. And the numbers are also pretty terrifying. According to statistics, about 9% of young people from 18 to 25, they spend 5 to 10 hours a day. That's basically the whole working day they spend on their mobile phone each day. About a third of young people, they also confess that they are addicted to social media, which also contributes to increased screen time. And about 20% of all smartphone users, they exceed the screen time per day of 4.5 hours. That's a pretty high number. And of course, also many people, about 40%, they say that they suffer from lack of sleep because of social media and screen usage. Also, think about the tasks, how many tasks per day we're actually doing as developers or as IT workers. We're not only coding each day, we're also spending some time debugging. We also have meetings. We use internet to search for answers. Everybody goes on Stack Overflow at least a couple times a day. We're reading our emails. We're using instant messaging. It's like Slack or a HipChat or whatever you use. And we do code reviews. We're looking at the storyboards in our task trackers. So the amount of tasks is actually pretty substantial, and you always need to switch context. You need to jump from one thing to another, and it's sometimes very hard to focus because of such amount of things that we're doing.
Yeah, so shocking numbers. Take a look at your own screen time for every now and then and see how much time you spend on your device. What we will do today, now we get to the tips and tricks. We divided it into several sections. So first of all, we do some general tricks, then to how to avoid distractions, how to set up your working environment, tools and apps, and how to reach for your goals that you have set. So first tip number 1, the Eisenhower Matrix. It's a trade-off between urgency and importancy. So what we do, let's say you get an email. Email is a medium that is really well known because it's always urgent and never important. So if you are on your email inbox all day, you're just wasting your time with the non-important stuff. And this matrix shows you how to prioritize the tasks you have. So if there's something urgent and important, do it right away. Go for it, make it work, no matter what. That's the most important thing you need to do on that day. If you want to do something important and non-urgent, schedule it. I'll get back to that later on, how you can schedule these tasks. And these are always the tasks, how to grow in your career eventually. Always, if you have a big overview on the project that you are doing, it's always a task that needs some more time to investigate and to experiment. There's always these. Number 2. If something is urgent, not important, give it to somebody else, or try to give it to a team member who maybe has a bit more time than you. If it's not urgent, not important, get rid of it. You get a lot of emails probably, I think more than half of the day, which is about this. Get rid of it, reject it, eliminate. So keep this in mind. We'll get back to this more time. So how to set your priorities. This works for me really well. So your calendar is your main thing. Always is leading in everything that you are doing. So if you start your day, you take a look at your calendar and you actually live up to that calendar. All the times you set, the meetings you did, never go away from your calendar. Second thing, if you are done with the calendar and you have some open space in your agenda, focus on the task list that you created. So all the tasks that you wrote down, so the important, non-urgent stuff that goes there. I'll learn to you later how to set up a task list. After that, there's email, because first you focus on your calendar, on your task list, and email is third in a row. If you have time for that, you process that. And social media, yeah, I need to put it in because, yeah, everybody wants to decrease his social media usage, but we still do it. I also tweeted I sent a lot of tweets about this session, and apparently it worked. So keep this in mind as well. So how to set up a solid calendar. So we all have a calendar. Some people have it on paper. I really urge you to use a digital one because then it's available anywhere in every time. It's always leading. Schedule the non-urgent important tasks. So for example, if you want to investigate something, if you have a new business idea, set it in your calendar. For example, on Friday from 10 to 12, I do my business development. I just come up with some ideas, I start Googling, write something down, turn my phone down, and it's focused on that. Schedule your meeting up front. So if you have a meeting from 10 to 11, at 9:45, I set 15 minutes to prepare for the meeting, to get the most out of it. So what do I want to say? What's the kind of questions I want to ask? Who is there to do some research that you can skip to introductions already? If the meeting ends at 11, I schedule 15 minutes from 11 to 11:15 to process the to-do list and send the task list and send the notes to everybody. If you don't do that and you have a meeting right after that, then you think, well, shit, these action points and these to-do lists, we need to do it, but I'll do it in 3 days. And after 3 days, you think, well, now it's old news. I don't know what it was about. I'll get rid of it. And then the meeting was useless. You didn't get the actions that you needed to do. Pretty obvious, fill in the location and send calendar invites. Some things might be pretty obvious to you, but if you schedule something in 1 month and you don't know who the meeting was with or where it was, you're lost. Also, schedule travel time in it. If you live in Amsterdam and you need to go to Utrecht, schedule 1 hour of travel time in it, because then your agenda might look empty before the meeting, but you actually need to get there as well. This one, communication in a proactive way. This is really what I see so many times. Let's say you sent an email, you want to meet somebody, you said, hey, I want to meet you, can we have a coffee sometime? And then the other responds, yes, it's cool, what is this meeting about? And well, then you respond, well, I have this idea that I want to pitch to you, what do you think? And the other says, okay, that's cool, we can meet on Thursday. And then you send back, no, Thursday is not good for me, Friday. And it goes on and on and on and on. If you communicate in a proactive way, so you say, well, I want to meet, I want to talk to you about this business idea, I can meet you on Monday from 12 or Tuesday at 1. And then the other people can just send one email back and says, okay, that's good for me to meet, I can meet you Monday at 12. So communication in a proactive way saves you a lot of time. Set up a good task list. Choose your ideal task list. So one of the requirements is it needs to be digital. It needs to be available on all your devices. So on your desktop, on your phone, on your iPad if you have it, because then you can always access and it gives you a good overview of the stuff that you need to do. It needs to be fast, so it needs to handle with shortcuts on your keyboard, for example. Also, transform task into action. For example, let's say I have a leaky roof, then I can say fix leaky roof, but that's a really huge task to accomplish for myself. So I can, first task will be investigate what's the problem. Second task is, well, I can't do it myself, I need to find a plumber, but it's still not a real action, so because I don't know any plumbers. So I'll go to my neighbor because I saw he had a plumber 1 month ago and ask for the phone number of that plumber to fix it. So always make it short, break it down. Also, in task list, you have the someday and anytime folder. So if you just have a brain fart, but you think, well, I want to, for example, I want to increase my English speaking. I want to do a course on that. I don't have any time for it right now, so I put it in my anytime folder, so I can always see it. If you have multiple actions that are connected, bundle it into a project. Make labels. I have labels, for example, for energy level. I'm much more productive in the morning than in the afternoon. So the most important task that takes my most focus and attention, I plan it in the morning. For example, sometimes I need to scan receipts for financial administration. I always schedule that at the end of the day because I don't need any attention for that. What I also do is I assign certain labels to certain persons so that when I meet that person, I can just open that label and see all the tasks that I want to discuss with that person. Because you always go when you meet somebody and then when you go back home, you think, oh shit, I should have asked this guy how to do it. Also create a pending label that really works well for me. So sometimes you are waiting for somebody's response on your email and you can remove the task because you think, well, I already sent the email. If somebody doesn't respond, you don't know what where the task is in the process. Set up a second brain. I stay awake at night when I was thinking about all the tasks that I needed to do and it was running in my head. Our brain actually works really funny. If you find a solution for that, it's out of your brain. So I use my task list as a second brain. If I have something, I have it in my car, I connected it to Bluetooth, I can do the voice recognition and add something to my task list. Also, on my phone, I just put in what I thought of, or the stuff that I needed to do, and I forgot about it. And that gives a lot of rest. Good task list, for that I use Things Free. It's a paid app, but it's worth every euro-cent of it. Also, OmniFocus is a bit cheaper one, and it works really well for other people. I didn't use it because I'm addicted to Things Free. Don't get distracted by email. Yeah, we all know this sign that you have hundreds and hundreds of emails that you needed to do. Like I said in the beginning, email is distracting and it's never urgent. Let's say my wife is pregnant. She doesn't send an email to me to tell that she's in labor. She will give me a call or she will hunt me down in any other way. You can pause your inbox. I did this and it's mind-blowing. I scheduled in my agenda 3 times a day, half an hour to process email, at 8:30, at 1, and at 5. The other times my inbox is paused. It doesn't come in. I can still send emails, but I don't receive it. And since I scheduled it in my agenda for half an hour, from 8:30 to 9 I do that. After 9 I start thinking about something else. So you can schedule it. One thing I did first is I only applied it on my MacBook, not on my iPad and not on my phone. Do it everywhere on all devices and don't cheat, because there are some apps for this to pause your inbox. I'll get back to that later. But don't cheat. They have their workarounds. Don't try to find them. Processing email. So you get an email. How do you actually process it? Well, first of all, you read the email. You read it really good and see what it's about. And then you start thinking, well, what do I want with this email? Do I need anything with it? No, it's just information. Get rid of it. If I need to do anything with it, is any action required? If yes, go to the step 4, the fourth step. If not, archive it into your email. You still save it. It's there. Can you process the email within 2 minutes? If you can do it within 2 minutes, you do it right away. If it takes more time, more attention, you see if there's a deadline for it. If there's a deadline, yes, you schedule time in your agenda, in your calendar. If there's no deadline, you put it on your task list. So you always make this trade-off. Is something important? Is it urgent?
This is a more practical rule about filtering and sorting your emails, because we only, in a standard email client, there's only one inbox and all the emails get there. But for instance, this is actually a screenshot from my Outlook, and I find it really convenient to have a special folder for all your CC emails, because CC doesn't mean it's an email to you. It just means that you can be aware of this email that maybe somebody else is participating at. So I don't want to see those emails in my inbox. They all go to a special folder. I also find a very nice tip to filter all the high volume emails, like notifications from your Git repository, or maybe Confluence, or some other emails in this folder below. So the bigger the company you're working at, the less relatable company-wide newsletters are. So I just sort them out and then read whenever I have time because they're not so urgent. And all the email clients have this option to do, and this one is from Outlook. I find that rules are very simple in Outlook and it's easy to do. The 2-minute rule that Ramon mentioned is also very powerful. If the task requires less than 2 minutes to perform, then just do it right away. Because if it's the same effort to write this down and do it later. So it's just better to do it and move on. Of course, if the task is more than 2 minutes, then put it somewhere in your agenda or in your to-do list, so you can get back to it later when you have more time and you can be more focused. Another rule is celebrate your victories. It's always nice to have your team spirit high, so think about how can you celebrate victories. Maybe there is some important release, or maybe there is somebody's birthday. That's a sure thing to celebrate. So buy a cake if there is some important event that happened, and cheer up the team. Maybe it's a good idea to propose some team activity and then go for karting or maybe bowling or I don't know, maybe a karaoke bar if your team is small. Just go drink beers on Friday. It's also a cheap way to socialize and have fun with your colleagues. And also, it's a good thing to celebrate once in a while that you worked X amount of years in a company. Maybe somebody worked 1 year or 2 years or how many years. It's a nice thing to celebrate and get everybody cheered up. A simple rule, take a walk. It's the productivity is not about working all the time. It's also about taking breaks at strategic moments. And taking a walk is also a proven way to a bit get your mind off of the task. And have some background processing. Maybe you come up with some great ideas when you're taking a walk. Maybe you can go to the coffee machine and talk with somebody and come up with some solutions to the problems that you're having. So sometimes, just walking to a coffee corner is more than enough. First of all, I want to ask who here in the audience, can you please raise your hands if you know what tomato technique is, so Pomodoro Technique? Well, about 15%. It's quite a good number. So this is a technique that I very like. This is called the Pomodoro Technique. It was developed by an Italian guy, Francesco Cirillo, in the 80s. And what he came up with is that he decided to break down his task into 25-minute intervals with breaks in between. And this way he felt more productive, that he can work in short bursts. And he called it Pomodoro because he was using a kitchen timer shaped like a tomato, like on the slide. So that worked well for him, and a lot of people actually decided to follow this technique, and it worked for them as well. And I think it's a nice technique because it helps you to achieve more focus, because you know that for 25 minutes you really have to spend all the effort that you can on a task. It also helps to reduce impact of interruptions, because if you're working only for 25 minutes, then you're working on a smaller tasks. Then if you get interrupted, it's not such a big impact than if you were focusing for 2 hours straight, for instance. Also, some people found that the technique doesn't really work for them, so they decided to use to advance it. So there are some advanced Pomodoro techniques, and most of them actually revolve around increasing the time interval from 25 minutes to more. And I found the convincing evidence that actually humans, they function in 90 to 120-minute intervals. And around the mid of this interval, human productivity and focus and cognitive function actually peaks. And then it decreases a bit to let the body prepare for the next sprint, so to speak. So some people actually use bigger intervals, and for me it also works quite nice. So these days you can actually, you don't have to use a kitchen timer, you can just use an app for it. And it's a pretty good thing. A nice tip to break it down. I actually like this tip a lot because I get, a lot of times I get anxious when I'm facing big tasks, and I find it hard to find where to begin a big task. So then I'm starting to think, how can I break it down into smaller tasks? Because smaller tasks are easier to handle. You can better see progress. You can easily find where to start. And also, you are, like with the Pomodoro technique, you are less prone to interruptions. So it's a very nice way to be more productive. So there is actually some research. Microsoft had done some research about it. They did it in the scope of crowdfunding, of distributing tasks and doing when people are doing big tasks split over the internet. And they found that it actually works really well, despite the fact that it increases the overall time because the tasks are smaller and a lot of people have to cooperate, for instance. But they found that the quality actually increases and people feel more happy because they feel that they more quickly that they achieved something.
Yes. Life is a game. Gamification, we all know it. I tried to when I was studying, I was always rewarding myself. If I did 1 hour of study, I could play for 1 hour on my PlayStation. That didn't work well because then I played too much on the PlayStation, because after 1 hour I thought, well, I could do another hour. I studied for an hour. But there are actually much more smaller rewards you can give yourself. If there's a really nice coffee corner around the office, say, well, if I complete this task, I'll get a nice cup of coffee for myself. Get a favorite snack if you want after you completed the task. So set small incentives to actually work on it. And there's a really cool game. It's like a get shit done RPG. It's called Habitica. I always try to pronounce it right. And what you need to do, it's a task list / game. So you can get more experience points if you actually complete the tasks that you're doing. You can compete with friends, and the more experience you got, you can unlock certain items or new costumes or outfits, whatever. It's really nice to do it like that. So now we have the general tips. Now how to avoid distractions, because distractions are coming at us all day like crazy. First off, we have our phones. I love my iPhone, but it also distracts me a lot from when I try to focus. Turn off notifications. This really works well. There's a do not disturb mode button at your where is it? Oh, yes, here it is. It's like a moon signal. Turn it on, because nobody can call you back then. It's awesome. You don't get distracted. You can focus whatever you want. Also, we mentioned before there are screen time statistics on your phone. Look it up. You will be shocked. I don't know. Whoever took a look at their screen time statistics, please raise your hand. Oh, there's still a lot of people who can do that. If you want to be scared, do it. Turn off notifications for apps. This is really simple on iPhone and Android. There's just a notification center, and you can just say, this app can notify me, this app can notify me. For example, I have an Apple Watch. I thought it was a wonderful piece of equipment, but then instead of looking like this, I was doing this all day. Turned off all notifications, and now it's now it's just a $400 watch. Reduce the use of instant messaging. So we have Slack, we have WhatsApp, we have Skype, everything. You can disable that annoying red bubble in front with the number of messages you've missed. You can just turn it off. If you're really addicted, schedule it in your agenda. Say, well, after my lunch break from 12:30 to 12:45, I want to catch up with my WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever you are doing. Schedule it, then you also know what time you can actually check it, and you really feel horrible if you do it at another time. But also you can set screen limits for apps or for sections of apps. Who actually has screen limits on its phone? Oh, I'm shocked. This really worked well for me. You can set screen limits for your phone. There's a do not disturb mode where you can actually schedule when you don't want to be called. I scheduled it after 8 o'clock in the evening and 7 in the morning. Nobody can call me except my favorites. So you have a list of favorites. That's usually your friends and family. Also, you can do the setting that if people call twice in 2 minutes, then it must be urgent as well, and it goes through the do not disturb mode as well. You can set social media limits on your phone. First, I set it to 15 minutes a day, and then when it was 9 o'clock, I already spilled my entire day. It's really horrible if you actually see that in the early morning you already spent so much time on social media. I removed all social media from my phone. I thought, well, that's really easy for me to get rid of. And it was. I never missed it for 1 single second. Still, what I did, I also don't visit it on my MacBook. I have my iPad. I always leave it at home. And there I can check if I want. But I can only do it when I'm at home. Never bring the iPad. Your working environment. This is your specialty.
That's right. So it is also important to set up team rules. So if you don't want to be distracted, you can come up with some rules that the team knows that you want to be focused. Like for instance, you can wear a headset and agree with everybody that if you're wearing a headset, then you don't want to be disturbed. Also set up a time limit on the meetings, because everybody hates useless meetings, and it's important to not attend them. And also keep in mind that if a meeting has no agenda and there is no clear responsible person, then it's probably best to avoid it. It's probably not going to go anywhere. Maybe if your office allows, it's a good idea to, if you want to be really focused and not to be distracted, it's a good idea to find some secret remote place in your office where you can just bring your laptop and work there and nobody would know where you are. And that way you can avoid people coming at your desk and knocking on your door all the time. But of course, not overdo it, because then people will think you're antisocial and don't want to see anybody. And also think about communication limits. Like with the social media, it's also important not to spend too much time on your Slacks or Hip chats. If also come up with the rules that say if some things should go in the email, some things should go in your Hip chat, and maybe some things that are so urgent, then people can come at your desk to really talk to you in person. This is an interesting one. Actually, try to, if you don't use multiple screens, then try to ask for a second screen, because it is actually better to use 2 screens. There are studies about it, and it is definitely beneficial. So, but of course, it depends on you. So if you're using a second screen to look at Stack Overflow along with your IDE on another screen, then it's fine. But then if you're using a second screen to watch cat videos on YouTube or Game of Thrones episode, then of course that's not going to work well. So there is actually a study that, many studies that prove that there are benefits to using multiple screens. And I came up with the conspiracy theory that because most of those studies are actually funded by screen manufacturers, so probably it's a way for them to sell more screens. But yeah, for me it works. So also pair programming. Who is a developer in this room? Can you please raise your hands? Well, pretty much everybody. That's cool. Who did the pair programming and who does it regularly? Okay, not so much, but anyway, pair programming is a very sure way to be productive, because there's another person watching what you're doing. So there are 2 people working together, if you don't know what that is, and you can discuss the decisions and basically code together, and it's quite nice because you can discuss it right away, and sometimes you can even skip code review. But there is also another technique which is called mobbing. And mobbing is about more people, actually. It's the good number is probably 3 to 6 people. So basically, almost the whole team can participate. And it's like a rally car. So there's one driver that is behind the keyboard, and it's a guy that just allowed to type. It's not allowed to make decisions on its own. And everybody else are discussing the decisions and telling the driver what to do and what to type. So this way, the whole team can participate. It's quite nice that because one team has different skill sets, maybe somebody's a backend developer, somebody's a front end, and maybe somebody knows more about the SQL databases, and you can combine the skills very nicely. But of course, to both approaches, to both pair programming and mobbing, there are disadvantages, because it's of course more expensive, because more people working on the same stuff. And yeah, so your mileage may vary, so try to see if it works.
Working from home remotely.
Yep.
Have some discipline. We all work remote every now and then. Have some home discipline that you actually do. What really works well, if you have the space for that, to have a dedicated office in your house. If you work from your living room, then your private life and working life gets mixed up. You get confused, you get distracted because you see your neighbor walking around, or you you see the pile of garbage that's standing in your kitchen and you think, well, I need to throw this away. If you have an office that's just for working, you can focus. Also, that means if you're done working, you leave the space and your mind thinks, well, I'm done working. If you stay working in your living room, then you'll usually work up much later than if you have a dedicated office. Also, don't dress like you are at work. Don't work in your pajamas. Take a shower, dress properly, because then your mindset is already, well, I'm going to work. If I'm in my pajamas or in my shorts or whatever, I can't get any work done. So we said, reach for your goals. There are a lot of important tasks that are not urgent that you need to go for to grow in your career. But how do you actually set those goals and achieve those goals? That's what the final tips will be about. So how to set your goals? I urge you to get your laptop, go sit somewhere without any internet, and just open your text editor and start writing. First question is, what do I like? What do I like? And this can be, you think you might know what you like, but actually write it down. It can give you some nice insights about the things that drive you. But also, what things are you good at? So, what can you actually achieve? What are you better at than other persons in your team or in your work or in your private life? And also, what's your mission? What's important to you? What do you actually want to achieve with your work? What's your life goal that you actually want to become? And if you actually write it down, you take 2 hours to write it down. You have like a couple of 100 words, 2 pages, something like that. That gives you an overview of yourself, and you will be amazed what comes out of it. So you have your skills, passion, and mission, what you want to do. Based on that, you open another document and to set your goals. So you think about your mission, about your passion and skills, and try to combine it into a goal that you want to achieve. So maybe that can be that you want to spend more time with your family because you worked too hard and you didn't spend enough time with your mother or father or whatever. But it can also be about a new idea you have or a new product that you came up with that might be interesting to look into. Can be anything. Then get into action. So formulate plans. So what do you want to do? Like we said as well, turn plans into actions before and break it down. Make it as small as possible, because if you make the action really big, then it's really difficult to build a company, for example. But if you make it into 100 tiny steps, it's really easy. Ask advice from people to help you with that and review your documents and look back at your passion and skills and your goals that you've set. And just experience it. Just go for it and execute the small actions that you created. Once you've done that or you're working that, think back. So it's a loop circle. You always think about your mission, your passion, and your skills and what you're doing. And write it down. If you write it down, it's really funny to see the progress that you can make in 1 month or in 2 months or in a year. I read back all my passion goals that I set 1 year ago. It's really funny to see that we actually achieved the goals that I set. So here we are, to review your goals. Be hard for yourself, because, well, the most annoying, difficult tasks you always leave for the last part. So try to review yourself and see what goals you did meet and what you didn't do. I do it on Friday afternoon. I always review my goals. I do it in half an hour. I just see what were the goals that I set for this week, and then did I accomplish them, yes or no. I do this in Friday afternoon so that I can set the things that I didn't do for my next week's calendar. So then I already make up my calendar and task list for the week after that. The goals that I didn't reach in that week are top priority the week after that. And then the next week you review your goals again and again. You can also do it for each quarter and each year. I always set my year goals, and at each quarter I look at them and see, well, how far am I? I need to focus more on this. For example, I want to spend more time with my mother, so I scheduled calling my mom or visiting my mom in my agenda. And after 2 months, she became really annoyed, and she said, well, are you here again? So I said, all right, I can break it down a bit. Also, look back on the goals. So where do you want to be with your goals? So how far am I here? I'm almost here, but the most difficult step is just here to perform. Ask for help. What I do, I have a review buddy. He's a friend of mine. He's totally in another industry, in another way of working. And once a week, we just meet or give a call and discuss each other actions. So we share the goals that we set and the reviews of our goals in a shared Google Drive, and we just discuss. I'll prepare it 50 minutes up front, and we just go right in, and he's challenging me why I didn't perform any task, and I did the same with him as well. Really works well. And to see your progress, if you write it down, it's so rewarding. Obvious one, we go a bit faster. Stay healthy, stay hydrated. I love coffee. It gives you a short-term boost, but a long-term downer. Drink enough water to stay hydrated. Water makes your brain to ease, and you can focus much longer. Sleep well. Alcohol's not a good friend for your body. I drink alcohol as well, but make sure don't do it before an important presentation. No devices in the bedroom. Who has its phone on in the bedroom? Ooh. What's the biggest reason? Why do you keep it there? Anybody? Sorry? Alarm clock, yes. So everybody uses their phone as an alarm clock, but in the meantime, it usually means that before you go to bed, you check your news apps. When you wake up, you say, hi, and you start reading the news apps. If you leave it behind in the living room, it's great. You wake up really focused, you have some time to actually talk to your partner, and wake up really easy. You hear the birds, and not the birds from Twitter, but the actual birds outside. And buy an alarm clock, if that's your reason. They are for 10, 15 euros, 20 euros. You can buy a really decent one, and that really works well. Meditation and mindfulness. When I got stressed, I learned how to meditate. And this can be, some people think, well, I'm not a yoga guy, I don't want to be laying on the mat. But you have these great apps like Headspace that you, in 2 or 5 minutes, you can just focus. You sit on a chair, you put on your earphone. You can do it with your eyes closed or your eyes open, but they just teach you some breathing exercises to calm your mind and to ease your body. And I'm a practical guy, but I tried this, and after 2 weeks, it already starts to pay off. When I'm stressed, I can calm myself down while I'm in the car, or when I'm sitting on the couch or in my office chair. Try it. I think the first month is for free, and then it's a paid subscription. It may sound very weird at the beginning, but it actually helps. So we mentioned a lot of tools and apps during this presentation. I wrote them down here. I use Boomerang to pause my inbox. It's really cool. It's available for Microsoft Exchange and for Gmail, so you can set limits to your to pause your inbox. What also is cool at Boomerang is that you can automatically share your availability from your calendar. So you can just say share availability, and the other can pick a spot in that agenda right away for you to schedule a meeting. And you can say, well, in this slot it's okay, in this slot it's not. So communicating in a proactive way. Adios is the same thing for Gmail, to inbox your Gmail accounts. It's for free. Things is my favorite task list. Look into it. They also have 1 month trial period. OmniFocus. Plain Task is your favorite.
Yeah, it's a very nice plugin for Sublime. In plain text, you can work with your tasks, archive them, move them, and mark them as done. It's very nice and easy to use.
Yes, and a lot of people still use Trello for collaboration, that you can track status and see where a program is it pending, is it done, and to schedule things up front. And Headspace for meditation. We also have some references, so the literature we used. I'm really inspired by this book. It's a Dutch book from a guy at Blendel, Grip, and he's currently translating into English as well, so I think it's done in a couple of weeks. The book, the biography from Steve Jobs, I really find cool because he really focused on the important, non-urgent things, and just he set his passion, skills, and mission really far up ahead. And if you read through the lines, you can actually see that. And it's actually a cool book as well. Thinking Fast and Slow. Well, I can discuss all of them, but just buy all of them and read them. So we have 2 minutes left. Now I'll open my browser and refresh. Oh, that's a really good tip from Roy. Check out Ramon and Artem, about 25 tips to get shit done. Thanks for that. What is he here? People can wait. Use one of your contacts as an experiment, ignore the email and see what happens. Nothing. Yes, I had the same thing, this tip from Michael. Oh, you cannot see it. Shit. Sorry. I thought I was showing my screen. Yes, so here. So this tip from Michael. A couple of years ago, I had an accident with my bike. Fell on my head, had a really heavy concussion and wasn't able to work for 10 months. And my doctor advised me, well, you didn't work for 10 months. Probably your inbox will be exploded. And he said, just all the emails that you have, archive it into a separate folder so that you can still access it, don't read it. And I never touched that folder. It's amazing. If I have read it and responded that, I lost 2 months of work. Anything to add? Was that the tip you had? Exactly that. Developer's tip. Great way to get better productivity on a day-to-day basis is to reflect on your activities. That's a good tip as well. Who was that? Cool. Any other tips? Anybody from the audience who has one to share but doesn't have Twitter? Who won the book? Oh, there's a new one. Okay, explain, Wouter.
It's a book by Timothy Ferris, and he's a guy who really thinks about things differently than most of us do.
Yeah.
And the book contains a really nice set of tips on how to work more efficiently and then get your work week down to 4 hours.
Okay, the 4-hour work week, who wants that? Get this book from Wouter. I think the best tip is from Fafna, the developer tip. So thanks for that. You won my book. It's really worn out. Use it. This was our presentation. I need to go back to the slides. Thank you all for attending. The NL Jug has an events app where TEQnation is. Please rate our session. This is the first time we do it, and we actually want to get some feedback from you all as well so that we can prove it for maybe any future conferences. If you have any questions, we walk around here all day. And thanks so much for attending, and I hope you learned something productive.
Thanks for coming.
Cool, man.